And welcome back to another episode of the Swandingo Files. Today I have a special guest on, Josh Elledge. He is also a fellow podcaster of UpMyInfluence, and he's been featured in media over 2,500 times. How's it going today, Josh?
Hey, it's great to be here, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm glad you took time out of your busy day. I know you're doing a lot of stuff and you're crushing it on the outside since you've been out of the Navy. We won't hold that against you being in the Navy, but the Army is still better. Anyways, so today we're going to talk about why you joined the military, what you did while you're in the military, your transition out, some issues that you might have had that some other veterans might want to learn from, and then how you're killing it on the outside and why you do what you do. So if you can begin, just why did you join the military?
Well, grew up kind of poor, working middle class in the Midwest, and I looked at all of my options at the time, and I don't know that I was a good student, and then I got distracted in high school a little bit. I always had like a crazy strong work ethic, but I was just adding up the numbers, and I'm like, I am not seeing how college is going to be possible. And and I think part of me too, really, especially in hindsight, it was good for me to change my environment. And I needed to, almost kind of hit the reset button a little bit in my personal life and just say, you know what, I'm going to try to create everything I can from scratch. And we had a recruiter that came into my journalism class, and he brought a recent graduate from our high school, and he was a photographer in the Navy at the time. And he's like, man, I'm hanging out at helicopters and shooting video and taking photos. And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty fun. So my friend and I, who was in that same class, we went to the recruiter, certainly heard their spiel. He ended up not being able to join because he had some back issues or something like that. I took the ASVAB. I did pretty well. So of course they have you take the advanced test then, and I did okay on that. And then they put me in depth to become a nuclear submarine type stuff. I got to thinking about that. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. That's not what I do. I really wanted to be a journalist. And the problem with journalists is there aren't too many of them. And so thankfully, they got me in. And so I went to journalism school, and at the time was in all branches. Still is Defense Information School, but this is outside of Indianapolis. And what a cool experience. So not only boot camp, right? So boot camp's awesome because, we had an all Michigan company. And so you had like all these guys from rough situation, Detroit, you have these kids from like small towns like me, and up to no good. It was just awesome. Like you just and then of course you go to Defense Information School. Now you've got just people from all over coming together. Like that was so good for me to be exposed to so many different types of backgrounds and experiences and viewpoints. That made me a better person. But one of the most transformative moments, in my early military experience was in school. I'm sure you've seen the movie Good Morning Vietnam. And
oh yes, I actually love that movie. So that's pretty cool. One of my favorite.
Robin Williams, of course, plays Captain Adrian Cronauer, Staff Sergeant Cronauer. And so Staff Sergeant Cronauer came in and spoke to our journalism class, and then spent the day with us. And that one day completely changed my life, because what he did, I was going into I thought journalism, that'll be fun. I'm going to enjoy it. But he put the love of service, and he put the love of, listen, of all the jobs you can do in the military, I cannot stress just how critical your role is in disseminating information, entertainment, information. You are help keeping people alive. You are help keeping people happy. I got religion in that moment. And to this day, Staff Sergeant Cronauer has impacted what I do for a living, because I never stepped away from that role of wanting to serve audiences. At least, I don't know that I'm very good at it, but I just enjoy it. And I love what I do. I love, from print, and I mainly went the broadcast route. So I did TV for 3 years in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and then radio my last year out in the Aleutian Islands on ADAC. And man, what a great experience. But when I got to ADAC too, this is another kind of pivotal moment where the chief sat me down. He says, "Listen, it's isolated duty here. Folks don't see the sun. They spend pretty much 24/7 indoors. Winters are rough, and we almost always have a suicide or two. You can absolutely help keep." You are here to help people feel good. You are here to keep them informed. Like, we need you, Josh. And I just remember that conversation, with him, and I was like, wow. So I want to extend this same message to anybody else who is a content creator today. What you do matters. What you do, we think about the content that's shared on social media. It's not all positive, and some of it is causing some real mental health issues, especially with our youth today. If you can be a force for good, if you'll commit to that, and if you'll think, in your gut, there is someone who's listening to me right now that I hope I can inspire them in some way. Right? Maybe it's just my example. Maybe it's just, I'm going to uplift them, with some positivity or whatever. Let that be the wind at your back, because again, as a content creator, if you're a blogger, a YouTuber, creating stuff on TikTok, like, what you do really matters, and it really impacts people's lives.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because you see so much stuff on media, the news, everything, and it's always promoted the bad, and the bad always gets more views, of course, but there's still a lot of people that go out there, and I know you've got a big following, and there's other ones like Richard Kaufman, and they all have big followings and spread a positive message and are trying to help out with other veterans. But it's just the negative always overpowers the good, and that's just sad in our society today. And I'm glad you said that right here.
Yeah. I want to share that just because I don't know if this will come in conversation, and it's kind of on the same note. I've done some work with USAA over the years, just kind of as I'm not an influencer, but I had a specific audience, and certainly kind of with that military affinity, it enabled me to do some good stuff with them. And one of those things that we got to go to the Army Navy game, which, by the way, was the first one that the Army won in like decades. Just to tease you back. But anyway, so I met Boo Corrigan, who was the U.S. Military Academy. He was a sports director of athletics, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I remember I did an interview with him, and kind of on a similar note, right, where we think about our role, and especially if we think about, are we doing anything to support the veteran community and people that have had that experience? And he came up a good point where he was talking about, listen, why is it that we say thank you for your service to a veteran? And and it's really interesting, because I don't know, I'm sure there's folks that are listening. Prior to 9/11, that just wasn't really in our lexicon that I recall. 9/11 happened. All of a sudden, our men and women in uniform were much more visible since that date. And now, thankfully, I think culturally, I think we've made some good improvements there, where we've recognized and we honor, those who have served. But, he kind of talked about this, thank you for your service. Why do we say this? And at the very least, not all of us were tip of the spear. It was tough, right, when I went, but I mean, nowhere near, the guy that I'm sitting next to at my kid's Veterans Day program, where he's seen some stuff, right? And so, but you think at the very least, right, at the very least of us, who served and wore that uniform, we write a blank check. And that takes a lot of chutzpah to do that, and to put your life on, in some cases, put your life on hold for, 3, 4, 5 years, which I did. Right. I got out of the Navy, and I think this is probably where you're going to want to go conversation wise. All my friends are done with college at that point, and I'm just starting. I had some college credits and stuff, so I had probably about half a year or something. But, that was frustrating for me. Because, my parents are like, oh, we saw so-and-so, and he's like it's like working as I don't know. I just remember some of this, like my parents kind of filling me in on some of my friends. I'm like, well, good for them. I don't know that I would have even gotten to that path had I not had, 4 or 5 years to kind of grow up. And I did. And the kind of grit that I was able to create during that 4 or 5 years, it made me a better man. So anyway, so at the very least, when you see someone, you hear about someone that's served, thank them for at least, putting some pretty major things on hold for a while, right? Because it is a sacrifice. But one other thing that he shared about, he listed off kind of his principles of leadership, and he gave me 3 answers. I don't remember what the first 2 were, but the third one he shared, Stephen, was. And this is coming from someone like military life, military culture. And that third thing he said that all leaders should strive to become exceptional at is empathy. And like when he said that, like I was like, I instantly forgot all the other questions I was going to ask because I was like, what did you just say? Like a military leader emphasizing empathy? But I think empathy is so valuable today, right? And so for empathic, to those who we get to both lead and serve today, it helps the mission. Instead of this suck it up buttercup, rub some dirt in it, just which I experienced quite a bit of that in my time. But that, I think I'm really heartened to see that is. That's made its way into both military culture, but I think popular culture as well. Like we ought to look out for each other. We ought to ask those questions. And the first time you ask, by the way, and this is another thing I want to bring up, for our brothers and sisters here, it's like, when you say, hey, is there anything I can do for you? The instant answer, it's going to be, like, no, I'm all right. Right?
Mm-hmm. That's very much so.
They have to say that, like everyone has to say that because we're taught to be tough. We're taught to be resilient, right? But what he encouraged said, what I want you to do is when someone says, no, I'm all right, I want you to dig or try to come up with something specific. I've got a friend in my life right now, and he's going through some really rough stuff and depression, and he's had some really crappy stuff happen. And I say, hey, how's everything doing? Oh, pretty rough. It's like, well, man, let me know if there's anything I can do for you. I did that about 2-3 times, and it just kind of kept fizzling out. I was like, yeah, that's not going to work with this guy. Like, you got to just say, come on, man, let's go out and do something. Like, let's go ride bikes. Let's go play mini golf. Let's go, whatever, right? Just come up with something, grab them, and that's part of leadership as well. Empathic leadership is like someone's they're going to say no. So you're going to have to be ready for that and be ready for that follow up, or just go ahead and just say, hey, why don't we do this?
Yeah, I want to jump back to where you said not everybody was tip of the spear because you were a journalist in the Navy.
A vital job. I wasn't shot at,
But see, okay, so what is the military? For every 10 or for every 1 combat soldier, there's 10 support soldiers. And to let everybody know, that doesn't matter what your job is in the military. It doesn't matter what you do. The fact that you raise your right hand, you swore an oath to the United States, and the fact that you're going outside of your comfort zone, you serve. I was a scout, a cavalry scout in the Army, front lines, that kind of stuff. But I very much always appreciated the cooks, the mechanics, supply. I try to always make best friends with those people because if you ever needed anything, if you were, let's put it bluntly, if you were a dick or an asshole to them, they'd be like, no, get out of here. Or, yeah, I'll put you on the list, and you wouldn't get it. I made it up to E7 in the Army, and, I always try to make friends outside of my platoon, squad, or company, or troop, excuse me. So I was a scout, so we have troops instead of companies. And, I always treated everybody with respect, and I always did ask, like, hey, if you ever need anything, just let me know. So I'll be there for you. I'll support you. And just, it was nice to get that camaraderie outside of the platoon. So it doesn't matter what you did while you're in, the fact that you served is the bigger thing. You have stake in the game for the United States of America instead of just being someone that went to college. college is important. Don't get me wrong. Depending on what you want to do. I got 2 years worth of college, but you said that, oh, look, oh, your mom or whoever was like, oh, look what such and such is doing now. But do they have any stake in the game? Do they have any skin in the game? Do they have any any, what do you call it? Patriotism towards our country, I guess you can say. Are they just like, oh, I'm just out here to make money? So I'm out here because doing this and what I'm doing now, and eventually I hope broaden my horizon, because not only this, I want to help veterans. I want to help other people. I actually want to provide something back for somebody. Most people that go to college become self-centered. They don't really see the broad picture of the United States as a whole. They just see themselves and what they're doing as a mission for them, and how to get them further in life, and not how to pull other people up. I'm working with somebody now he's also a veteran, and he's also trying to lift me and my business partner up. Whereas most people we talk to, it's just, oh, well, it's all about me. The whole veteran community, I've noticed, is all about, hey, let's lift each other up. So that's why it's so much better to work with, I think, veterans, why we succeed more in business and stuff like that. And it's why I really believe we actually should start looking out for each other more. And, like you said, dig in when somebody says you see the problem, dig in. We all have issues, so let's just help each other out. It's pretty simple.
I love it. And certainly too, I think advocate, it's so obviously show up, do the thing, and then identify where maybe it's not working, or maybe someone is, I think it's appropriate to let them know, hey, I don't know that that's helpful for the mission here, right? And so kind of to rein people in, because I won't say that every college grad is one way and every military veteran is another way, but certainly I do see like the commonalities. I've had the opportunity to hire a lot of veterans, or a lot of mil spouses, and that same kind of that culture seeps into the spouses as well. But grit, determination, there is no room for failure. Like those, that I would say is very unique. Just you think about like, where if you're given a mission, you don't just say, it's getting too hard, I'm not going to do it, right? That concept is just, it's so foreign, I think, for anyone who spent any amount of time, in uniform. You just don't think like that. It is, you do what is supposed to be done. And so that's really valuable. And again, to all my military veteran business owner friends too, like it's cool. Like we share that. That's a cool trait, if that's what's what's running in your blood. That kind of grit, determination, and we just get the thing done. I love that. That is certainly, I'd say, pretty unique.
Yeah, it's definitely, you're going to find that more in the military community, because we can't accept failure. It's just, it's not in our DNA anymore, and it's brainwashed out of us, no matter what branch. I mean, it's a nice little word, I guess, brainwashed out of us in basic training. So, I mean, you did what you were told and you followed suit. And as you built up in the military, you got more responsibility, and you got more freedom to exercise your or what you needed to do to accomplish the mission. And it makes your brain work more. You get more critical thinking skills in the military than what you do on the outside, because I think in the military, everything's so purpose driven. I think you have to use your brain to try to accomplish a mission. So as you get leadership, especially as an E7, which I hated being an E7, it was not fun. It was all paperwork and no away from the troops and everything. But as you're building up, you're required to start thinking more with your brain. And that's something that you don't see a lot out of people that don't join the military. The critical thinking skills just aren't bred into them, I don't think. Excuse me. But so let's so you're a journalist. What was your favorite thing you ever covered as a journalist?
Oh my gosh, the December 7th anniversaries. So I was in Pearl Harbor, and I mean, when they talk about the greatest generation, and you see, the emotion. I mean, here we are, you know, decades, like four decades beyond, 5 decades beyond, when these folks were there, and they still come, and it's hallowed ground for them. And so many tears and so much pride, and how we as a country came together to respond, in response, to such a what I would call a heinous event, right? It was. And but that those were, I was there. So 3 times I was there for, when all the anniversary stuff was going down. Man, did it make me proud to be an American, and to be able to look at those who served before me and said, man, I don't know if I could live up to what these guys and gals had to do, but boy, are they an inspiration for me. And I felt so humbled and honored to be able to, kind of, take my teeny tiny little step as a, witnessing or being a part of a legacy of history, right? And that was just so humbling. Of course, as the journalist, I got to interview survivors, and those who were there during that time. And oh man, you just so much respect. But yeah, that was absolutely one of the best. Now, fun. I would say the most fun stuff I got to do in ADAC. I got to do a morning radio show from 6 to 9 every morning. I got to play music and just, really try to drive, number one, kind of just insert good, right? But also it was really interesting about, just culture. So you have when you have an isolated duty base, like, it's really fun to be a part of the culture that's going on. And, we had a pretty good MWR, and man, did I work a lot with those guys. But that was so much fun. And you develop relationships and love with those people you serve. When you're serving in a kind of a smaller, ADAC, I can't imagine there were at the time more than 1,000 people there. I think it was far less than that. So it's a pretty small population. They had already gotten, families. It was isolated duty at the time. So, but man, did I enjoy that. And that was so much fun. And in fact, I got to host karaoke on Friday nights at the Officers Club. I got to DJ. So
officers do love karaoke. I don't know why. It's just weird.
Oh, but man, I tell you, it was great. It was great training too. So you got to do karaoke every Friday night for nearly a year, and then DJ'd every Saturday night at the Enlisted Club, and that was a lot too. So man, it's good times. I am so grateful that I have those memories, and I wouldn't trade them for anything, because again, there was some tough stuff, and of course isolated from family, friends, and and that caused its own friction. And, you didn't always work with leaders that were very kind. So, had to go through some, had some, there's a lot of good, lot of stuff along with this stuff.
So, you served 5 years then, right?
Yeah. So for journalism, because the school was a little lengthy, you had to put an extra year on.
Well, at least you knew what you were getting yourself into. I signed a 6-year contract to be a Cav Scout, which is the longest you can sign for. And it's like, that was stupid to begin with. But I mean, I stayed in doing it for 14 and a half years. So until I was medically retired, but so made it a career almost. But so when you transitioned, when did you know you're going to get, when did you know you're going to be done with it? You were like, I want to try my hand on the outside.
Yeah, I was pretty, because my job happened to have a little bit more civilian application than a lot of other military jobs. I knew that, I talked with enough people that already kind of made their exit. They were able to step into jobs in journalism. Now, for whatever reason, didn't work out for me. I didn't find anything in my field. It was just, just really crappy. Like I could work at a radio station and make minimum wage, overnights, but there was really nothing that was available to me. So I pretty much kind of started over professionally, but I had my experience. Now, here's what I will say though. I ended up taking a few college classes while I was in. And listen, if there's anyone who's got some connections to those that are still you're currently enlisted, try to max out on that college program, man. It's such a hookup. But I ended up, I'd say by the time I was done, it was more than one semester. Like it was close to finishing my freshman year by the time I added everything up. So between that, of course they give you some college credits and stuff like that. But then I went to college year round, didn't take spring and summer off. I ended up getting my bachelor's degree done in 2.5 years. I was pretty proud of it. But I'll tell you, listen, if I had gone directly to college straight out of high school, I don't think it would have worked out real well for me. I grew up in the military, and I was also able to get my college degree done in almost half the time. So so not only did I have that pressure of trying to catch up with some of my friends, but then I was like, look, I'm timer's going here, man. I want to get working. So I was pretty motivated. And, I worked my ass off. Like I would max out on credits. Like I year round, I didn't take spring, summer. I didn't take summers off. Like I was already used to, and this is interesting, right? Like I was already used to a pace that I don't think my peers may have been used to. Even when I was in the military, I had moonlight. Like I was always working. I was working. And so I took that work ethic and directly into college. And man, it was awesome. Now, I wouldn't say I picked the best college degree. I wanted to be a love doc. So here's what I did enough radio, and at the time there was like Adam and Drew from had just kind of come along with Love Lines, and I wanted to be a love doctor on the radio. That was like my fantasy at the time. So I went into marriage. So I went into family science and family therapy as a bachelor's, which is worth 0.0 at the bachelor's level. Like there's nothing you could do with that until you go and get your master's and PhD. Well, what had happened though is I started. If you look for opportunities, you're always looking for opportunities. Look where you can step out and like serve maybe and look in new ways, right? So I ended up doing web pages for some of the professors, and I would do that in exchange for like research credits or internship credits. And I ended up learning more about web development than I did about family science and family therapy. Now, my wife went on to become a family therapist, which that's a whole story in of itself, like how we met and all of that stuff. But yeah, so I ended up getting a job as an internet developer straight out of college. And of course, that lasted about 3 years. And I don't know I was just not a good employee. Like I was okay. I'd say, when I was enlisted, I wasn't exceptional. I was good. Certainly, I was good at the skills of it, but I wouldn't say I was a great employee. And similarly, like as an internet developer, like, corporate America was tough for me because I'm one of those people that if I have a great idea, I just want to go do it. Like I don't have time to wait around for, people to vote on whether or not we should do something. I just want to go do it. And
where'd you get that from?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of hot to trot on, like, again, kind of that pace. It's like I felt like. Go ahead.
You don't have that patience to wait for other people to say yes. You just want to get it done and get it going and get your ideas out there.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So eventually I left corporate America. I started a number of businesses. I'd say, I had a couple during college and stuff, but, all told, I had been through about 6 different small businesses. Some were pretty, pity or, just a little part-time thing or whatever. But I had either exited or failed in business about 6 times. And then my 7th business venture, and this is where the soft skills, like what's in your gut, what's in your heart. Do you have the perseverance to continue on when other people throw in the towel? And I do, I have that. And on my 7th business venture, that's the one that became a 7-figure a year company. Because I just kept on showing up, just like Captain America. I can do this all day.
So your 7th one, huh?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, people really need to hear that, because I think just about everybody fails in business if they go out on their own a couple times. So
that's right. Welcome to the club. Yeah.
I think even David Meltzer, I don't know if a lot of people know him, but he went bankrupt twice, and now he's like, God, I don't know how much he's worth now, and he's one of the people that are up there in business. And so what is your 7th venture that you're going now?
No, that was Savings Angel. Angel, I launched in January 2007, and I didn't have any money for advertising. And it was basically a membership-based website that, again, this was January 2007 that I launched. And so you would pay $20 a month, and I would tell you how to basically save, $400 or $500 off your grocery bill every single month. So I would database coupons, and I would database all the store sales. I say, listen, take this $1 coupon into this grocery store and you can get Cheerios for 50 cents a box. Take this coupon to this store and you get, so I could mathematically show you how you could feed your whole family for like $300 a month. And
I need that right now. Like, can you show me? I got 6 kids right now. So.
Too late. Because apparently you're there. Listen, there was a good rise, and then extreme couponing came about. This is way back in the day, and we became like that. That was when extreme couponing hit the scene. Like our income would. It was awesome. Like it's a lot of fun to be able to be rewarded. And I was so humbled because, again, I paid my dues. Like I failed time and time again, lost 2 houses, bankruptcy, went through all that stuff, kept having, just bad situations in business, but I just kept at it. Eventually consumers, I grew a little tired of coupons and certainly having to do the extra work. And so so I would say culturally, we just came out of favor. The market decided that they were no longer interested in that, which was fun because I had already been doing some consulting on the side. I built a big company. People were like, hey, how'd you build the company? And you did 0 advertising. I'm like, well, it's all PR. Like I just, became a syndicated newspaper columnist. I syndicated radio, syndicated TV, like all told, I've now today been in the press, well over 2,500 times, primarily teaching consumer skills. Like that's just what and I still do that today. I still have my syndicated newspaper column. It's in like 12, 13 newspapers, plus digital. I do TV all the time. Locally, I've been on TV in Orlando over 700 times. So, again, I just keep showing up. I don't even have a business like that. I don't really make money off of Savings Angel anymore, but I do it because I enjoy it. Like, and I'm empathic to, the personas that I serve, the mom that is just, she has to decide between, do I buy pull-ups, but damn it, Huggies are so expensive, or do I buy milk, right? It's someone in that position that lights a fire under me. Like, so when I'm in the morning, and this is kind of coming around full circle here, because I talked about this earlier, when you feel like you're getting burnt out, when you feel like you feel underappreciated for the work that you do, I want you to think about someone who benefits from the work you do, and you focus on them. What are the consequences of you not showing up today? Who sacrifices because you weren't willing to show up? I don't want to come at it from a guilt and shame perspective, but just like what you do matters. And I'm talking to the person that's listening to our conversation right now. What you do in the world matters. You are improving someone's life in some way. And it may not be directly, it might be more indirectly. But man, the people that clean the streets, the people that take care of the garbage, the people that keep the power on in my house, provide clean drinking water for my family. I am in awe of everyone who's involved that makes this country run, that makes, society run. Like, everyone matters. And so it's like, I can do my part. I can do my part to help make their life better. But yeah, I do very, very little with Savings Angel Day because we launched UpMyInfluence in about 2014, and it was completely unintentional. I did not mean to start UpMyInfluence, but here we are today.
Well, it's nice. So, and I like the fact, and I think my wife's probably heard of you because I remember 2007 or what year was it? Well, we had kids and we got together 2010, 11, I don't remember. And I know she started trying to get into that couponing stuff because that's just, she needed something to do, I guess. I don't know. And then we started having kids, and then she started trying to do it. But yeah, that extreme couponing stuff, it can be pretty rough. Though,
yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was like, dude, I would roll out of a Meijer grocery store, and I would have like $300 of groceries in my cart, and I'd be like $30. It was like insane.
I need that so bad because
if you knew how to work it. Now, this show ended up making people look stupid and ridiculous, which is why I said no to having anything. And I had a couple of other friends who were like, no, Josh, don't. They're basically going to do, it's going to be extreme hoarders for coupons. All these people are going to get completely railroaded. We know what they're up to. And they were right. They just made them look dumb.
But the thing is, though, and they did the show that they had on TV about
entertainment. Yes, on TLC, yes.
But it made the people look, like you said, I don't know about if dumb's the right word, but they made them look, I don't know. It's
well, like the guy who's got like 80 tubes of toothpaste in his garage. It's hoarding. I was always really against that. Because I'm like, look, what you want is enough for your family, and you want enough that you can comfortably use that stuff before it expires. Everything else, you need to donate it. You need to get that in the hands of someone that can consume. These are consumables, and they need to be consumed. We facilitated, I mean, tens of millions, I'd say collectively over the years, we facilitated easily tens of millions of dollars of products and goods given away or donated through, what we inspired. Because I truly believe, and in fact, the name I got for Savings Angel, my wife and I got to attend a taping of the Oprah show, and Bono and Alicia Keys were on. They were talking about Project Red. And in between the segments, Bono said to the audience, and it was like that moment where I felt like everyone else disappeared. And I felt like he was like talking right into my soul. And he said, I believe we'll get to a point where hunger, lack, and need will be such a relic of the past when we come to realize that it doesn't take a lot. It just takes everybody just doing a little bit. If everybody just does a little bit in their local communities, it is so easy to solve hunger, lack, and need. We just all have to look out for each other. That's it. But it's like he said something, he said that, and I was like, man, that's it. That's why I'm here. And we did a lot of good there. But yeah, like I said, consumers got a little tired of couponing, but and again, thankfully I was already, and I'll tell you, the consulting that I was doing on the side, that was unintentional as well, because what I did, and again, this, I think is good, good karma here, a good message. But when you figure something out, right, and it's like, man, if somebody else knew what I just figured out here, that might be valuable. Like, go find ways to give away that information. Go democratize your wisdom, right? And so I would serve in our local startup community. I did a lot of pro bono stuff, served on boards, mentoring, workshops, a lot of mostly military. Like I told the local SPDC, I was like, anytime you have someone that's got, or SCORE, or those guys, I'm like, anytime you have someone that's got military background, call me up and I will serve. You let me know and I'll go and I'll just spend time with them, see what I can do, see if I can make some connections. And so I started doing stuff, basically helping them get media. And then I did that enough times that there were some opportunities that came about, paid opportunities. I was like, oh, I guess. In fact, it's kind of funny because even though I didn't go to school for PR, but I had a legit opportunity, and someone basically wanted to pay me like their PR consultant. I had to call my friend who was like a PR professional, and I'm like, hey, this company wants to pay me for PR. Like, am I going to get in any trouble because I'm not like a licensed PR person? He goes, no way, man, you take that money.
No, you won't. You don't even need to go to college anymore for it. You can learn literally everything through just online stuff. It's so much better. And you just, I guess if you just really get out there, watch, practice, you're gonna have your failures, you're gonna have your clients that are unhappy, of course. But I mean, it's not that hard to pick up. It really isn't. You just got to make sure you follow through and just never say no, really, is what I found out.
Yeah, yeah. If you keep showing up and keep, volunteering, like you will just like that is the fastest path to opportunities. Like keep showing up, keep doing good, network with amazing people. I really love the book, The Go-Giver by Bob Bird. It's, in business, when you're more generous than your competition, that's what wins today. That's going to help you get more sales. And Up My Influence today, we started off in media consulting and PR. And then is another unintentional, right? When you stay in the game, just like good stuff happens. But about 4 years ago, one of my clients, I had gotten to speak for Tony Robbins' organization. I got to speak for, a lot of really good conferences. And I got good business out of that. But then there were these gaps where I wasn't doing any speaking. And June, July, August would roll around. I'm like, I'm not doing any speaking. I'm not getting any new business. As an agency owner, that's tough. Like you gotta keep new business coming in. And so I'm like, well, what am I supposed to be doing here? I don't, I got to be, we tried ads, we tried all this other stuff, and it's just, none of it really resonated. So we took our podcast and The Thoughtful Entrepreneur, which, again, to our friends listening just right now, you can go search me, The Thoughtful Entrepreneur, or you can search my name. And I said, what I'm going to do with my podcast is I'm going to increase the rate of folks that I chat with, and I'm going to serve, and I'm going to make it all about them. And I'm going to celebrate them. I don't care about, what I get out of it in front of this audience, but I'm going to make someone else look good, because I believe that if you give at some point, especially with folks that are doing okay in business, like I have a theory. My theory is that I think that there's probably a point where I won't be able to outgive the market. Like if I just keep showing up that way. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And the networking that I got from my podcast led to all the clients that we could handle. And one of my, this is on the PR side, and one of our PR clients said, hey, I see what you guys are doing over there. That's pretty brilliant. You help me. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so we did some work for her. She ended up, no joke, she ended up making about $175K in new sales from her podcast within 90 days.
Wow.
It wasn't so much about like selling to the audience. Now you're there to serve the audience, but it's if you get to decide like who else you're networking with as a part of like creating content together, you could be a little bit intentional about that. And just like, man, that person's amazing. Oh my gosh, if I could build a relationship with them, maybe there's an opportunity for us to collaborate and, get other introductions. And you just want to become like a masterful networker. But listen, podcasts are the ultimate networking tool. Already, it allows you to just punch up a couple of levels, because you're kind of wearing this media badge, which gives you access to folks that you wouldn't normally get time with. And so, in fact, it was really interesting. She was client number one, Sonia. Then one of her clients was client number two. Just an attorney, who was one of her clients. He was client number three, and all three of them were doing all right with this. And I thought, we need to run a beta. We ran the beta. Beta was pretty successful. And it was about 4 months later, we let go of all of our PR clients.
What'd you do that for?
Because I was doing I would say we were doing B- level work on PR, but meanwhile, we were just consistently knocking it out of the park. So, it's like that focus, right? And I think there's something to be said for that. Like, and we turned down, it was, we probably gave up a good $10,000, $12,000 in recurring. It wasn't a whole lot by then, but it was about a good $12,000, I'd say, in recurring revenue that we basically just cut off the books because it was keeping us distracted. And we were, then we were also kind of, well, we're this identity and we're this identity, and they're not really the same things. What are we? I think we need to just draw a line in the sand. And it was, the transition wasn't 100% smooth, but, thankfully it was the right call. And today, again, I mean, at this point now, we've launched over 200 podcasts with clients, and they've gone on to, like, we have clients that have landed huge 7-figure sales and deals. Again, so we consult primarily. Podcast is just part of it, what we do, but we're largely now today, B2B sales. We drive revenue, right? And so we work with agencies, coaches, consultants, B2B service providers. They have to sell some pretty high ticket stuff. And they have to be pretty high authority to work with us. But if I have those things, and most importantly, they have to be very relationship oriented in their approach to sales. If they're kind of a
robot,
automate broy marketing, not a fit for us. And it's, God bless them, that's wonderful if that's someone's doing that. It just doesn't fit with our system. Like, ours is very relationship oriented, very consultative. So, and a lot of our clients will have pretty long sales cycles. Like, it could be 12 months, so, but what we do is we help drive a lot of opportunities. So we just keep them consistent, predictable, new introductions, and we just keep that going, and then eventually the sales follow.
I appreciate all that information, and that is I don't think people understand the power of podcasts and how it can drive so much media and people to you without even really trying that hard, honestly, because people really want to jump on podcasts, get their stories out there, and it's working great for us so far. I mean, I got you on, so.
Well, yeah, sure.
So it's worked somewhere.
Guests, here, my observation, podcast guests and hosts tend to be generally amazing centers of influence. They know people. They might not necessarily be huge influencers, but they generally network at a pace that dwarfs most business leaders. Podcast guests and hosts know lots of people. So that should be one clue. Number two, they tend to be extremely collaborative. It's very rare today that you bump into people in the podcasting world. I'm not saying it's not the case. There's certainly out there. But most people are pretty generous with their time, right? And you don't experience today as many of those, I'm just out there to sell my stuff to those audiences. Most people are a little bit more mature. Sometimes you get the amateurs that kind of come into it, and then they get a feel for the culture pretty quick. That's a no-no. You don't do that here. You're in the podcasting world, you deliver value, you deliver content, and you serve that audience. First and foremost, that attracts a really good persona. The podcasting world's amazing. Listen, there's a couple of good podcasting conferences out there. There's a lot of regional meetups. Like, if someone's listening to us and they're toying with it, go find a local podcast meetup. PodFest, I think, is an amazing conference, is a great community. Podcast Movement has a lot of different events that they do, and I think each of them might also sponsor local events. Get to know some podcasters. They, like I said, they're usually really good, and let them know who you're looking to connect with. They probably know them.
Oh yeah, I like all the information you're giving the people and the value behind all of it, and I'm glad you went into that versus just a conversation. You're providing value, which a lot of people don't want to do anymore, is provide value. How can people get a hold of you, and how can they find you? I know UpMyInfluence.com, but how else?
Yeah, well, so there's two really specific areas, I think, just depending on where you're at in business. If you're doing well in business, like you're doing 6 figures and beyond, particularly if you're B2B, I would love to have you as a guest on my podcast. And again, that's the Thoughtful Entrepreneur. The best way to get there, and we just have you just book directly on our site, right? So the website, for someone that's like, yeah, or maybe someone who would be a good guest. I do a daily show. So I have an app, we're always on the hunt for great guests that we could celebrate. And we have a pretty good audience. We have over 100,000 on socials that we promote them to. So usually we get some good stuff. So anyway, you could just go to, again, the website is www.upmyinfluence.com. Or if you don't remember, they just search those terms and you could probably find me, or you could just search my name, Josh Elledge, and you'll find me. That's number one. So if you're not yet at that level, totally fine. Listen, if you're interested in kind of these concepts I'm talking about, like if you really want more consistency and predictability in sales, and you're willing to lead with a little bit of generosity, like you're willing to be a giver, I got a class. There's no sales on it. I'm basically just going to open up my playbook and I'm going to say, here's exactly what I do, step by step. And I tell you to show you everything we do. Go copy it. You don't need to give me anything. Like, I'm good.
Really?
But that class,
no money.
No, I mean, if you're rocking it in business, you know what to do. Like, okay, here's my philosophy on this, right? What I believe is give away all your best stuff all the time. There's going to be populations who say, thank you, awesome. And they're going to take it and they're going to run with it, and you inspired them and you created good in the world. Okay. Then there's going to be people who see it, they go, wow, that looks really great. I don't want to do that. I'll just hire you. But you have to trust your audience. Stop selling at people who are not appropriate to sell at. Or just like what you do is you give generously to everybody and you let audiences self-select. So, man, I tell you what, that little philosophy right there will free you as a business owner or as a sales professional or marketing director or whatever. When you just like, listen, we give to everybody because listen, those people that you give generously to, they could become advocates. And it's, not everyone can afford, we're not cheap, but we're good. We're really good at what we do. So that way it's like, I would never dream of even introducing an opportunity to engage where it's like, I don't have that kind of money. I don't even want to have that awkward conversation. So that's why I say, give it all away and let those who say, that sounds great. You sound like you know what you're talking about. I'll just hire you. Those are the people those are our clients.
I got it. And I appreciate you coming on here, and you provided way more value than I was expecting today. And I will definitely make sure I stay in contact with you. You really know how to talk, and I really like this. It was nice.
Acquired taste. Not everyone's going to listen to this whole interview and like me.
Well, if they can at least listen to the last part about giving away for free, that's my biggest thing. So I think with the digital marketers right now, they don't really know what they're doing. And that's like you said earlier, the digital marketing, you didn't see much success in it or any.
Yeah, boy, you could get me going on that topic right there because I got some ideas on what's going on there.
I'm going to hook you up with somebody. I'm going to hook you up with somebody that you need to talk to then, because he's in the same mental state as you with that kind of stuff. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And but that wraps up this one on the Swandingo Files. The man just giving his life away for free, so take advantage of it and use it for the better of humanity.